Cole Palmer. This is the name that has been on everyone's lips.
Yep.
Everybody is very quick to jump on a player's back when they go through a rough period, and that's exactly what Cole Palmer has been dealing with for large portions of this season. But he looked really good against Liverpool last time out. And, you know, it made Chelsea fans feel like, are we getting a glimpse of last season's Cole Palmer again? What makes him tick, Gary?
Well, I think he has ultimate confidence in his own ability. And if you don't have confidence, then you can't deliver the sort of performance that he's delivered for the bulk of this season, and you can't come through those difficult periods. But when you look at some of his figures from last week at home against Liverpool, and maybe with Liverpool having just won the league, it was an ideal opportunity for Chelsea to play them. But, you know, his stats were highest in expected goals, expected assists, shots at goal, shots from inside the box. You know, he featured so heavily in the top third of the park. And obviously one of the reasons behind that is the fact that Chelsea now have a formula which allows Caicedo, when he plays at right back, to step into midfield, and Caicedo and Lavia work well together, and that allows Enzo to get further up the park, which frees Cole even more. There's Enzo popping up in the penalty area. But it was, I think it was an ideal time for Chelsea to play Liverpool, but even so, they still convincingly knocked them over.
I think he was an unknown quantity last season, wasn't he? And he, you know, he took everything by storm, and it was brilliant. It was phenomenal, the season he had last year. To replicate that again this season, when everyone knowing his skills and his qualities was always going to be difficult. Listen, he's not been as productive. I think it was 22 goals last season, 21, 22. This season he's around 15, isn't he, in the Premier League? So it's not been as productive. But if you can stop the supply to him, and you can stop him actually getting on the ball, then you're going to nullify a big area of Chelsea's attack, and I think that's what teams have cottoned onto this season. You know, if you can stop him from playing and stop the source to him, they're not going to be as productive. And you know, last week, like Gary touched on with Liverpool, I think there were mitigating circumstances. Liverpool had just won the title, hadn't they? And maybe they weren't fully at it. But again, he still stepped up and he was quality. It was nice to see, because you want to see players in the Premier League like him producing week in, week out, don't you?
It's the age-old discussion, isn't it? How do you get the best out of, quote-unquote, a luxury player, someone who's able to change the game in an instant, but perhaps you've got to afford them the right sort of space and environment to thrive in. How do you get the best out of someone like Cole Palmer, Harry?
Well, first and foremost, you've got to work hard. And for what Cole Palmer's gone through this year, I think people have been a little bit harsh on him, because the one thing that when I've watched him, I think sometimes he drops too deep to get the ball, and when you start looking and chasing for the ball, you're dropping into them areas, and then passes from 20 yards where he's sliding people in, they're like 40 yards now, and that becomes difficult. When Lavia comes in, that gives Palmer that kind of freedom now, because he has that kind of safety net behind him to get them back to 20 yards. For me, with Palmer, like he's a luxury player. And I know he had a great season there last year and all that, and people say, oh, they can figure him out. They'll never figure him out, because I think he plays off the cuff. And if you can give him that kind of freedom with the backup behind him, I think you're going to see a fantastic player in the future to come.